how coalition governments are formed and how South Africa elects the president. South African voters have decided that none of the over 50 political parties who contested the May 29 elections were worthy of a clear majority win. When this happens, the political parties with the most votes, like the ANC with its 40%, will require assistance from one or more parties to form a coalition government. This spurt weakened, the ANC entered into discussions with the DA, EFF, IFP and others as it looks to form a government after failing to get 50% of the vote for the first time. An ANC spokesperson said talks have been fruitful. In South Africa, the National Assembly elects the president rather than the people directly. Through a proportional representation system, each party is allocated a certain number of seats in the National Assembly determined by their percentage of national vote. Subsequently, the 400 members of the National Assembly who are elected by the voting public elect the president. President Cyril Ramaphosa will require 201 votes to be re-elected as president. In the recent 2024 general elections, the ANC attained 40% of the vote, or 159 seats, the DA 21.8%, 87 seats, the MK party got 14.58%, which is 58 seats, the EFF 9.52%, which is 39 seats, and the IFP 3.85%, which is 17 seats. This means the ANC requires 42 seats to form a government. The 40% votes amassed by the ANC, represented at 17%, decline for the governing ANC, who are now expected to form a national government of unity with the DA, EFF, IFP, PA, and the NFP. Corning out of the 1994 elections, despite the ANC winning these elections with a clear 60% plus majority, the ANC government enters into a government of national unity with the likes of the National Party and the IFP. In the last administration, Patricia de Lille of Good was a cabinet minister heading up the public works and later the tourism portfolio. This time, however, it is out of necessity and not will, as the ANC looks set to share power with the DA, EFF, IFP and others. The agreement would involve sharing power and responsibilities, with each party having a say in decision-making progresses. Forming a coalition government requires compromise and negotiation, as parties may have different policy priorities and objectives. The agreement could potentially see one party, the DA for example, being given legislative oversight in parliament, while the other parties such as the EFF, IFP and PA and NFP could be given cabinet positions. What is that which swells a man's breast with pride above that which any other experiences can bring to him? The right political choice, which will be treated as sacrosanct. When P.W. Botha used to justify the homeland system, he used to say that South Africa was a country of minorities. People used to reject his divide and rule notion in favor of envisaged non-racist and a non-sexist nation. However, the notion of an integrated nation is as slippery as an oiled eel. Have we managed to become an integrated rainbow nation for the past 30 years? The ANC-led government has demonstrated their willingness to put the world in order by taking Israel to the International Court and justice, but in our nation in order. Confucius said, "To put the world in order, we must first put the nation in order. To put the nation in order, we must first put the family in order. To put the family in order, we must first cultivate our personal life. We must first set our hearts right." The current coalition challenges compel us to use Confucius' dictum as our yardstick by which we measure national order. We may safely say that South Africa is a country of coalition governments. Napoleon Hill once told his students that he would accept the dictionary as a gift on condition they moved the word impossible from the dictionary. Had Hill lived, he would have requested his student to return the word impossible to accommodate political behavior. It is impossible for political parties and governments to be perfect. When the Electoral Commission of South Africa (IEC) announced the results on Sunday, it was palpable that the road to success for all political parties and the IEC is always under construction. You will never arrive. It would be disingenuously for any political parties to claim elevation to a perfection status when perfection is like a marriage. As human beings, our goal is to strive for perfection, since the total achievement of perfection is an impossible endeavor. When politicians campaign, they ostensibly tell their followers about their lofty goal of constructing a perfect society, and when the election results are announced, they intrinsically concede that perfection is an impossibility. Perfection in politics is like a bottomless pit. Votes are franchised at the voting booth, but they are defranchised when political parties carve out a coalition agreement. When a political party wins an outright majority, we can safely say that the people shall govern. However, in a case of a coalition government, the political parties have the right to either govern or misgovern the electorate. People speak by putting a cross on the ballot paper, but their voices are muted by any coalition agreement after the election. Seeing that coalitions will dominate the South African political landscape, it would be prudent for the IEC to insert the coalition option on the ballot paper with a view to enabling electorates to choose their preferred coalition partners. The coalition arrangement should not be the prerogative of the political parties, but the prerogative of the voters. For example, if I vote for the ANC and I disagree with the EFF policy on immigration or disagree with the DA policy on the minimum wage, and the ANC decides to go in a coalition arrangement with either of EFF or the DA, I would feel like a person who never voted or whose vote was a spoiled vote. Simply put, I would feel defranchised and disillusioned. We live in an era where people do not have a propensity for reading anymore. Political parties have taken pains to write their manifestos, but how many people read academic manifestos? Some of the new political parties had a target for a 2/3 majority. The ANC has done a sterling job in carving out sterling policies over 30 years. The only problem is the failure to implement those well-crafted policies due by the deployment of unqualified and underqualified cadres to key positions. The new political parties must not be ambitious to govern, but they must employ a gradualist approach and zero in one area, and must not employ an Atlas syndrome, a belief that you can solve every social problem. A general leader approach does not work for new political parties. It is time political parties specialized before they could graduate to the general leader approach. For example, If Rise Mzansi focused on youth unemployment as their campaign specialty and used a broken record approach to their campaign, young people and their parents would have voted for them. When one is at the voting booth, one is no longer thinks of a voluminous manifesto with a catalogue of promise, but he thinks what the party stands for. It is time to form political parties that specialize in a particular social problem. Jacob Zuma was crafty enough in this campaign. He did not like Ramaphosa's ANC. The MK party voters did not need to read a manifesto in order to vote. Zuma used the broken record approach in his campaign. A manifesto should be used as a strategic planning document and not as a campaigning document. Our constitution is lauded as the best in the world. The constitution dictates that where a party never gained an outright majority, it must work with the other parties. Political parties are now forced to deny their isolated heroes status to become spirited teams. You campaign individually as a political party, but in a coalition arrangement, you are compelled to work collaboratively with other people. Collaborative management means that political parties must leverage diversity. There was a time when South Africa paid more attention to corporate governments and established the King Committees on Corporate Government, headed by former High Court Judge Marvin King SC. South Africa is now moving from corporate government to collaborative government. We need to establish a committee or collaborate government that will manage coalition agreements. It is up to political parties to develop a new competencies such as spiritual intelligence. However, to Zora and Marshall in 2000, by spiritual intelligence we mean the intelligence with which address and solve problems of meaning and value. The intelligence with which we can place our actions and our lives in wider, richer, meaning-given context. The intelligence with which we can access that one course of action or one man path is more meaningful than another. SQ is the soul's intelligence. It is the intelligence with which we not only recognize existing values, but with which we creatively discover new ones. As a leader who has developed SQ can work collaboratively with other leaders. The following are the indications of a high developed SQ. The capacity of the flexibility, achieve and spontaneously adaptive. 1. A high degree of self-awareness. 2. A capacity to face and use suffering. Capacity to face and transcend pain. 4. The quality of being inspired by vision and values. Are reluctant to cause necessary harm. A tendency to see the connection between diverse things being holistic. A marked tendency to have why and what if questions and seek fundamental answers. Being what psychologists call field independence, possessing a facility of working against convention, Zora and Marshall 2000 said. In our spiritually stunted world, our leaders need to develop SQ in order to deal with the myriad of challenges such as coalitions. And that's it from Egypt's Network. Stay tuned to our celebrity and gossip news.